1% of people in this country own 1/3 of the wealth of this country. See, what do the really wealthy, really smart people know? They know what they want to do with their time. You would meet people who had 25 crores, 30 crores, and then you suddenly start feeling that money is available. Like there is enough money to go around. It's just that it is concentrated in the hands of a few people. Every time you buy a new car, you have less money in your account. So you have less wealth.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that wealth really is the freedom to do what you want when you want. And therefore it's not about retiring. It's not about like this. I'm not a big fan of this FIRE movement.
Okay.
Right?
You're not?
Which is retire early. One thing I hear a lot of people say is I want to retire early. I think what they really mean is that they want to do what they want when they want. Somebody who is working in a bank, retirement might mean stepping back and writing a book.
Yeah.
Right? That's not retirement. Like, they want to do what they want when they want.
Other things, yeah.
Right? Here is a certain amount of salary you make. You make your ends meet within that, and you practically retire with nothing. There was a survey and people were asked that how will you survive post-retirement? 60% people said my children will support me.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the era, and in some cases still is the era of income management. And I think when I say era, it's not that it's like distinctive periods in time. Even today, there are parts of our country which are dealing with that. The second was this whole wealth management era. And it's a very recent era. It's like probably the last 4-5 years, where people have for the first time realized that you have to save money and find ways of deploying that money, right? Like one interesting, the first BSE it gives out the data of number of accounts that were opened by investors, right? We went from 1 crore to 2 crore accounts in about 1300 days, which is about 3.5 years. We went from 9 crore to 10 crore accounts, like that 1 crore was added in barely 90 days, 3 months time.
Wow.
So imagine 3.5 years it took us to go from 1 crore to 2 crore accounts, and from 9 to 10, which is adding that 1 crore, took us only 3 months. Which means that people are for the first time now thinking about putting money to work, right? But that is still a wealth management era where you have money, you just want it to earn some return. I think that the real potential of India will get unlocked when we enter the wealth creation era.
Okay.
Where people start thinking, how do I really create wealth? And which is free up my time to do what I want to do when I want to do it. What I'm really excited about is we are seeing signs of that. Like entrepreneurs, potential entrepreneurs, there's this conversation. You go to a cafe in Bangalore, on the adjacent table, somebody is pitching to a new co-founder, somebody is pitching to an investor. I think parts of our country are entering that wealth creation era. And I think that is the solve for where we are today.
So wealth creation, technically you said it means, so it's like you make enough money so that you buy out time to do things which you love.
Yeah.
And then you help other people to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So that you all collectively keep doing, you all get in the creating zone rather than managing zone.
Yeah. Yeah. So like for me also, like the first startup which we had, which was 2008 to 2021, helped us create Deserve in many ways, because it freed us up personally from the obligation of working in a job. Right? And today we can deploy whatever we have learned over the last couple of decades to be able to helping other people with their wealth creation journeys.
Fair.
And I think which is why it's a huge leverage for individuals and for the country.
So there's a misconception, or probably right, saying that a lot of wealthy people know what to do with their money. Is that right or wrong?
See, what do the really wealthy, really smart people know? They know what they want to do with their time. When it comes to money, majority of them rely on expertise. Because at that level, the stakes become so high. You need somebody else to handle it for you. Like I have a construct in my head, which is that there are low stake things and there are high stake things. High stake things is health, your money, Low stake things are what you want to wear, where do you want to travel to, vacation, etc. Now, in low stake things, you don't need expertise because you can spend your time, etc., and figure that out. But when it comes to high stake activities, that's when you really rely on expertise. Imagine like if I had a health issue, should I Google it and self-medicate myself? And you advise against that. And the same thing with money. And I think the really wealthy folks have figured this out. Like look at the most wealthy folks in the world, right? They've set up these family offices. They've set up full teams to help them with their money. Even the people who are not as wealthy as them are relying on experts to handle it for them.
Yeah.
So I think what do they spend time on when it comes to their money is figuring out whom they can trust with their money.
Are there components of how you can find these people and what do they look for?
They are trying to figure out whether they can trust you. And it's not about where you will invest their money. It's not about how much fees will you charge them. It's not about what is your scientific strategy, and because that's all a given. Like wo to hona hi hai.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you don't like have transparency and if you don't have a logic around how you deploy people's capital, you shouldn't be in the room to begin with. But what they really figure out is, does this guy have the right ethical frameworks? Does this guy have the right intent at heart to grow my capital? And which is why a lot of these discussions when it comes to money are discussions like these. In most cases, you're not discussing what you will do with it or what portfolio or which mutual fund or what stock or which bond. That discussion doesn't come up. It's more about these conversations. That what, Sandeep, like how do you think I should be deploying my money? Or what do you think I should be doing? And what they are assessing in that conversation is, can I trust this person?
But why there are certain people who are able to make wealth and certain people who are not wealthy?
If you look at a lot of mutual funds and you look at the fund's performance, like I was recently looking at a data that one asset management company put out, and they said that the performance of this fund has been over many years 19% annualized. And I was like, wait a minute, like this fund must have really made a lot of money for people. So we looked at the data of how much money actual investors made in that particular fund. We looked at when money came in, when money went out, and we modeled that to figure out. And actual returns of investors in that fund was 12 to 13%, which is 6% lower than what the fund actually made. I call this the expertise gap. A lot of times when it comes to managing your money, you need somebody to hold your hand and tell you and help you with what is right at which point of time. Otherwise, our emotions kick in and take control of that situation, right? So I think that for me is the reason why some people continuously make wealth with their investment and some people don't, which is the use of real expertise. Is that happening or not when it comes to high stakes things like money? When it comes to life, I have a different theory. Everything in life compounds. I wish, and I try and do that with my kids, I try and explain to them this concept of making money on money, which is essentially compounding over time, right? Because trust compounds, as we spoke, but also everything that you do in your career also compounds, right? Sometimes there's a temptation that for the same job, I'm getting 15% higher in another company. Maybe I should make a switch. And if you look at it on a completely dispassionate, rational basis, maybe that is the right thing. But what you are breaking is the reputation that you created in company A. When you're switching to company B, you're starting reputation afresh. So you're breaking the compounding of that reputation, right? And that then hurts in the long run. So when people ask me, I have this new job offer, should I take up, etc., my first thing is to them is that ask yourself, are you breaking compounding in any way, form that could hurt you in the long run? And I think like that for me is like a big lesson of wealth creation.
Like, don't break the thread of compounding in any field of your work.
And the problem with compounding is when you're living that moment, it doesn't feel like a progress.
Yeah.
right? Because it's like 0.01% on a daily basis. But over time, it becomes something magical and very large. There's this amazing book, one of the most favorite things I've read ever is this book called Range by David Epstein, which is, as you know, about generalists. And what are generalists? They've tried different things, but over time they've accumulated insight in that field, right? Like we talk about Roger Federer, who played tennis much later in life and played a lot of other sport, right? He was building a sense in, I mean, not consciously maybe, but around sport, right? Which then got channeled into tennis. And once he got into tennis, he built on top of that, right? He played for many years after that. I would think that if it's conscious, if it's thoughtful, it is potentially compounding too.
And here's how I look about it. You give an beautiful example. Let's say if you are leading a team in finance, then you're leading a team in pharmaceutical, then you're leading a team in, let's say, law. Your compounding would be in leading.
In leadership.
In the leadership. And I'll trust you on that.
Yeah.
Not trust you on pharmaceutical, or health or money or anything.
Absolutely.
Else. So that's what you meant. Like conscious
the best
leading.
CEOs are able to switch across companies because they've figured out leadership. They've figured out how to help people deliver to their best potential. And that's their compounding game.
So for wealth, like people who end up getting wealthy are who understand that there's a price of expertise which they have to pay.
Yeah.
So either they become the expert or they find out the expert who can help them to
absolutely
start,
100%.
Right? And B is understanding consciously the power of compounding in every field of their life, not only just money.
Correct.
Because whether it's talent, whether it's the field or the domain expertise or just trust or relationship, anything at all, if you understand that consciously, you become this person who would attract a lot of things in life, which will make it easy for you to become a wealthy person.
Absolutely. And you know, which I was telling my wife the other day that our education system is split into subjects, right? Instead, what if it was split into concepts, right? And compounding being one concept. And I feel like it's the most important thing that drives progress. Like you look at human history, there are so many small decisions or small things that were discovered along the way that made human beings what they are today, right? You look, Sapiens by Yuval Noah, that he's written about this, that these are small things which at that point in time doesn't seem like such a big event, right? And that's how you will feel when in your daily lives also, even in your portfolios, right? Because one of the things about most portfolios is people are seeking excitement, right? That yaar kal wohi value tha, aaj usse 10 rupiya upar hai, what has happened, this is not exciting, etc. Let's do something more exciting. What do? They break compounding and move to this new instrument or something which is potentially
fresh.
And again, you've broken compounding. So I think it's about just that allow compounding to play out. Tim Urban spoke about this. There's this concept of the instant gratification monkey, right? Which is sitting somewhere in your brain trying to make you do things which will make you happy at that point in time. And almost always they break compounding.
So I feel education also has this one problem that we always are taught about past. We never talk about future. Like there should be a class on future. Like what would you want to build? Or how would you want to imagine your 10 years from now? Or what would you do? Like just challenge the curiosity and possibilities so that it helps in nurturing the thought of innovation rather than just finding patterns of the past.
No, absolutely. Like, you know, I was at Singularity University in the Bay Area, I think in 2019. And it was an eye-opening thing for me. I think in many ways that contributed to me starting Deserve. There was this, so, you know, we were a bunch of like 50, 60 folks. And there was this futurism class, okay? And there was no reading material, nothing given in advance. So we didn't know what we were going in for. The professor walked in. She divided the team and the group into like 10 groups and said that you pick one concept and explore that to its next level and the next level and so on. So I'll give you an example. She gave my team the concept of driverless cars. Right now, what does driverless cars mean? Driverless cars, one way of thinking about them is that you won't need to drive anymore, therefore you will have free time. But there is also another angle to it, which is that if there are driverless cars, will you need to own a car or not? Right? So that is the next level effect, because if it's a driverless car, there is no shortage of drivers anymore, and cars are easily available. Why do we have a problem getting an Uber or an Ola? Is because the driver is not available, not the car is not available, right? So if drivers were not a bottleneck, then you will have any amount of cars available. Therefore, the moment you walk out, you will get a car. Therefore, you will not own a car. What will it mean for companies which lend against cars and so on and so forth, right? So, and that for me was a very eye-opening thing, in that you look at one thing and explore what it means. And I wish like our kids were enabled to think like that. Like take the like button on Instagram, right? And then what? Like, so what will happen if the designer who introduced a like button, if he was asked, okay, so what will happen? So people will chase likes. So what will happen? So people will spend more time on Instagram. So what will happen? They will try and look better on Instagram, and so on and so forth, right? Imagine the implication of that one feature, which was a like button. Right?
So just having this thought process of what will happen next, like that one like button will breed an entire generation which is wanting validation constantly on everyday basis and judging
Absolutely.
themselves.